Hi guys, this is Mark Pillar. In this video, I'll be talking about file service, or backendless file service to be precise, which is a set of APIs that your application could use to upload files, download files, share the files between different users, and so on. If you think about it, the amount of effort that one would need to put in place to write code to handle file uploads, security for various files, directory listings, file search could actually be quite large, especially if you're building an application that handles file uploads and file-related operations in a very large volume. With Backendless, all of those capabilities exist out of the box. So using the API, it's very easy to upload a file that would reside in the Backendless file storage system, and every file gets its own URL. Similarly, downloading a file is also as basic as just downloading a set of bytes for any given URL. The APIs which we provide are available universally for all our SDKs, including Android, iOS, JavaScript, .NET, PHP. They all have the functionality to do file uploads, listing directories, file searches, and so on. What's also interesting is that the users which your application contains and various security roles, we really haven't talked about them yet, but that topic is coming up. Backendless provides a way for you to secure access to the files and directories that contain files for the users of your application. So the integration between the user service and file service is fairly tight and nicely integrated, where, for instance, users in the role admin may have access to a particular file or directory, and users in the role guest may not have that ability, and it's very easy to configure. But structurally, it's very simple. So for instance, if this is your Backendless server, and that Backendless server contains your application, so let's say this is your app, and this is the backend app. That Backendless app contains file space. Just say this is file space. That may contain really any number of files and directories. The free tier in the cloud version gives you 20 gigabytes of the file space at no cost, and you can expand that file space by purchasing function packs from the marketplace. But the point of this diagram is that if this is your application, and let's say this is a very primitive drawing of a mobile phone, using the API, you can, so this is the API call, you can take just a set of bytes. It could be a snapshot of the camera on this device. It could be just a set of bytes that your application puts together. So you can basically take that a buffer or set of bytes, and using the API, send it to the backend, where a file right here will be created in the backend. And then for that file, you immediately get a URL. So that URL is returned back to your application. And using that URL, you can actually fetch this file back into the application. Also, I should note that if you're working with the data storage, and you saw the video for the data service API, whenever you store an object in the Backendless data storage, so let's say there is also a database, so this is DB. So an object stored here could reference a file stored right here. So this way, whenever you retrieve an object, you can actually get the URL for the referenced file. For example, let's say it is a job search app, and whenever candidates submit the resumes, you could create an object representing that candidate with the reference to the resume stored as a file. Just one example, and the number of these examples could be infinite. However, the concept of upload and download is very simple. It is exactly as it sounds, and then the API is right there. The most important thing is that the system that is built and provided by Backendless gives you an ability that can scale infinitely. So as the number of these apps, or the number of installations of your app, grows and becomes very, very high, and you have a lot of users uploading these files, the system will scale automatically to handle that kind of traffic. And you don't need to write a single line of code to do anything, because the backend provides this functionality out of the box. So that's an overview of the Backendless file service, and There we have just one more service left that before we start drilling down into the APIs, and that's going to be geolocation service that we'll review in the next video.